Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of EUREStv. It's great to have you watching again today. Today we will explore the new ELA report that recently came out about shortages and surpluses. The European Labour Authority did an in-depth report on supply and demand within the European Union and of course all the opportunities that can be found there. I have a copy of it here with me in the studio, but you can always review it online with the link that we will display below. Now, I'm not going to talk about this by myself. We have, of course, some guests here with us in the studio, and we will do some on-site reporting with employers and job seekers that have encountered these shortages for themselves. So do keep tuned. Before we start with that, let us introduce the guests here at the table first. Irene Mandl, welcome. You are Head of Unit for Information and EURES with the European Labour Authority, also known as ELA. And next to you is Irma Vijverberg. You are Head of NCO for the Netherlands, the National Coordination Office. Welcome to you as well. And on my right, also Camelia, Mihalcea. Welcome. You are Head of NCO for Romania, also the National Coordination Office. So together we will explore the report of ELA, interesting subjects and topics. But before we do that, let's just go to a poll question and see what you have answered on our social media posts. So the first poll question that we put on our social media channels was how many people does the construction sector employ in the European Union? Now we had quite a few answers for that, and if we look at the answers that we have displayed on the screen now, which was the one that you gave? So was it 2 million, 10 million, was it 14 million, or was it 19 million? Well, most of you answered number C. Well, it's not a number, but letter C, and the correct answer is actually C. So to everybody that had that correct, well done. That is of course right, because about 7% of the total employment in the European Union is the construction sector, which is a big part of everything that we do, of course, here with each other. Just looking at the report, because it's about construction, of course, this is the main topic, Irene. First question I do want to ask you, why is it so important that we have this report created?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's not the first report on this topic. It's actually 6 in a series, so the topic is important for quite a while, but it's getting more and more attention in public and in policy discussion, notably around the topic that skills shortages are appearing there on the labor market. And this is certainly true. So we see that there are, at least in some occupations, for some jobs, not sufficient workers who have the skills that are needed by the employers, but that's not the whole of the story. There are also other reasons for labor shortages. For example, if a job is not attractive enough for a worker to take it on, or because the worker and the job might not be at the same place. And there might be the lack of awareness for the worker where there are the job opportunities for them, or the other way around for the employers where to find the worker. And that's where EURES comes in. So it's a big role, it's a big mandate of EURES to bring job seekers and employers together across borders to alleviate then these imbalances that we have in terms of supply and demand on the labor market. But in order to be able to do so, we need the information. Where are the shortages? Where are the surpluses? And that's why we are doing this report. And we have that all in a report. I showed a copy here just now. We have it digital as well. Camelia, when you look at the report, it's supposed to help you as a EURES.
Yes. The report is also very important also for our EURES staff, because looking in that information, first of all, we find a lot of information about numbers, about shortages, about surpluses, and even if this is just number, I can discuss, for instance, with Irma. Irma, have you any opportunities for my surpluses in my country for my citizen? And Irma also can ask at me if there are the possibility to recruit in one specific occupation from Romania. We can put this on table and to discuss in order to start a recruitment project in order to help people.
To get some insight in how the market is built up for Romania.
Yes.
That's interesting because you mentioned also to Irma that it gives grounds for cooperation.
Yes.
So specifically, when we look at the Netherlands, Irma, it is the country with the most shortages in Europe, correct?
That's correct, yes.
So we're on 194?
194, yes. And that's really, for the Dutch labor market, it's a big problem that we have so many shortages. And you see, we also use the report for our EURES staff, but also for stakeholders. We make a Dutch report that shows in how many other European countries there is still surpluses for our shortages. But we, for example, use it also to validate permits, work permits for third country nationals. Because if there is no opportunities for us to recruit in Europe anymore, then we need to search, of course, further.
So it also helps companies searching for candidates to find different ways, or maybe countries where they can find staff that might fit their vacancies. You mentioned that since in the Netherlands we have a high shortage in finding the correct candidates. We use shortages and surpluses, but it's actually matching demand and people that are available, so people that are on offer. Projects that you work together with, does it also give a basis to support employers to specifically target certain countries?
We are always interested to open new projects in order to help people, because this is the idea. But not only job seeker, also we are interested to help our employers in order to find, especially now in this moment, especially the Romanian citizens who are abroad and who are not in the good position abroad in order to bring back on our labor market.
Like return mobility.
Yes.
So to help them support come back to Romania. Return mobility, Irene, is also a topic that is viewed many times. Is that included in the report as well, on movement of job seekers?
Well, not explicitly, because we're not doing a general analysis of the movement of the workers, but we are more identifying like the stock of people who are in a specific country, not so much differentiating their nationality and where they would then fit for the shortages in another country. It is
a personal service in many occasions, right? As EURES advisors, they need to know the local market. Irma, have you noticed that for your EURES advisors that they also use the numbers in the report to specifically target a certain country for recruitment to help employers?
Oh yes, they do. Yes, they do. For example, we recruited vets in Spain and in Italy. And it's based on the report that Ella is producing, yes.
So it's actually quite interesting for employers to have a look at the report where there is opportunities.
Yes, but I think you always should contact the country of origin to discuss the shortages and if there are really opportunities. Because let's say Spain is a very big country. The south of Spain is a very different situation than the situation in Madrid. So it's next to the information that we have in the report. It is a human network, and the humans need to talk to each other, and then we can do real good things. Yes, and we already did that.
So contact your local EURES advisor to get extra information and support. I think that's what we can take from this. But having that report and giving insight, it doesn't always guarantee that you still find the right person for the job. It also creates quite a few mismatches, I believe.
Yes, when we discuss about surpluses and shortages from the report, we have first of all to discuss about mismatch at the national level first. Let's take into consideration Romania is a big country. We can have surpluses in a part for a different occupation in a part of Romania, and we can have shortages with the same occupation in another part of Romania. And it's difficult to matching these two resources in order to eliminate all the shortages and all the surpluses. It is direct link to the specific condition for that areas. That's why we have to discuss about this information, this number, very specific.
And I know in the Netherlands they have also offering supports for candidates, job seekers that might be in a shortage of occupation that want to go, but EURES offers services for them as well, right?
Of course, we are free movement of workers, and we must stimulate also that people work abroad. So when a nurse come to us and say we want to emigrate with our family to Romania and live and work there, then our EURES advisors they contact each other and they help these people. But that's a task of us, but it's also a task to see where are the shortages and surpluses and how can we help Europe in total and to have a very good and reliable European labour market.
Yeah.
And that is why this report for us is very important.
It gives a good basis.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's also about the people. Find your local EURES advisor, ask for them support, and they can help you and guide you in the right direction. Interesting. All right. Well, we'll be going first now to our on-site report that we have conducted. For that, we go to Marseille. We had an interview there with the company Chantier. They have an experience with international recruitment of candidates for their intern and apprenticeship program, together with EURES and EURES. So let's see what they have to say.
So my name is Dorothee Duderich. I work for the association Chantier. I've been working here for 5 years now, and before I was a volunteer. When I arrived in Marseille from Germany, I started to cook, to participate to the cooking workshops, and now I'm working on the project development and project management. For the recruiting process, we work closely with EURES. They send out some descriptions of people that are interested. We do the interviews. We try to meet. Contacts are set up by EURES, and we just have to sign. Nowadays, we also benefit from Erasmus Plus funding, which means that we can propose travels to our volunteers and to our employees. We can either send them away to do traineeships, or we can also do group travels to meet other cooperatives or other places that have similarities to us. Is there a lack of trainees? I would say no, but maybe there's a lack of places that can integrate trainees and that can propose interesting experience to a trainee. So nowadays we mainly have trainees from Belgium, because we have this close relationship to EURES, which is a Belgian agency for employment. So we have different job descriptions for our trainees. The restaurant, we have the bakery, and we have the grocery store. So to find trainees, I think it's important to have a partnership with another organization in the country where the trainees might come from. It's difficult to meet them, so it's good to have someone who can meet in person, who can hook up with a possible trainee.
Hi, I'm Stefania. I found internship via EURES in Belgium, and so I moved to Marseille. Little by little, I discovered I loved this job, and that I was learning a lot. I was starting to be a bit responsible of giving a cooking atelier. And doing this kind of job, I was always in contact with people. So even if I was alone, I found many friends, many interesting people to share projects here while I was working. So EURES really helped me for the first contact with Chantier, and it also helpful to follow me in my learning process, to see if I was learning, where I needed to better, what I was developing. And so it was very interesting to have a regular meeting, always focus on what would you like to learn and not be scared, because traineeship and internship is made to help you to discover yourself and to discover talents or what you want to learn. So there's nothing wrong in not being able and be wrong, because you are there to make mistakes and learn and then develop yourself. So to not be scared.
I've been working in EURES since 2 years now. The kind of services we offer as EURES advisor for the incoming part, we offer some information and guidance about living and working conditions in France. For the outgoing part, we inform them, of course, and guide them through the Targeted Mobility Scheme financial program. Through this program, people can find jobs, and now we are discovering that trainees from just other countries has the opportunity to come here and even find a stable job after their traineeship, like Stefania, and be very happy about it.
So an interesting report on site, and always good to see how employers and of course job seekers find their way in a labour market where there's still so many challenges but also opportunities to be found. So thank you for everyone that participated there. We go off to our next poll question. Again, we showed this on our social media channels in the weeks leading up to today's episode, and the next question will come now. So what percentage of women are employed in shortage occupations? And that's a question that we put out there, so we have a range of answers for you. Now, it was A, 27%, B, 5%, C, 13%, or D, 45%. Now, the main answer that we got was actually D, 45% was employed in a shortage occupation, but the correct answer is actually 27%. Only 27% of women were employed in shortage occupations in Europe, and virtually non-existent in some of the larger groups of shortages that are represented also in the report. So looking at that number, Irene, it's not just, of course, the women that are highlighted there, but we look at more factors, right? Like age, gender, educational background, country of origin, etc. There's still a lot of potential there, I'm thinking.
Indeed, and I think the point really is, as we mentioned before, there are these mismatches on the labor market, and when we are particularly looking at the gender and then the female workforce, we see not only that they are underrepresented in the shortage occupation, so that's where workers are needed. We have not many women, but they are overrepresented also in the surplus occupations, meaning where we have too many workers, where they could be then shifted into these occupations where we have the shortages. And I think there has been a lot of been done in the last decades to kind of break up these stereotypes of that we have jobs for girls and jobs for boys, and when young people decide for which education and which occupation to go to, that we try to make that blurred so that we have more girls in traditional male jobs and vice versa. But from the data we see it's still not there. Yeah. So there is still more that needs to be done regarding this. And as we looked specifically into the construction sector, that is traditionally a sector where relatively few women are working. And when we then were investigating why is the reason that we have these shortages and why is it obviously not so attractive for the women, there came interesting findings, like, for example, things that could be relatively easily solved for. One example is protective equipment on the construction site. It's mainly done for men, not adjusted to female needs and female bodies, for example. So I think with findings like this, that could contribute to closing that gap of the shortages that might exist.
So in a way it's also stereotyping certain roles and jobs in certain sectors where also by protective material kind of like confirms that the role is maybe for men.
Indeed,
so
yes.
There's different ways to actually tackling other opportunities and possibilities for women in that sense. We see that a lot of things are changing, of course, in the labour market. Irma, when you look at the Dutch labour market, for instance, do you see that those type of jobs become more accessible for people that normally would not apply for a job in construction or?
Well, I see that robotisering that helps what Camelia said, and I think in the Netherlands they also think about facilitating childcare more than now. I think that's also a very important topic to do. But it's also in the culture. I remember when I was younger, we had a campaign in the Netherlands, and that was een slimme meid is op haar toekomst voorbereid. A smart girl is prepared for her future. It was an advertising campaign from the government to attract more girls to go to technical education, and it helped. So I think that's also very important. You see big differences in Europe in the participation of women in technical sectors, and I think we need to look at that countries that do it better than the Netherlands, for example.
Yeah, and it comes to a point where there is not much choice, because there's a lot of people retiring in those sectors, healthcare, construction, but specifically in Eastern European countries, it is shown that retirement is going up faster than maybe in some Southern or Western European countries. That might be a challenge.
I think that it's a general, we call it a mega trend on the labor market, the aging population, the aging workforce. So I think it's a general trend that we have too few young people entering the labor market compared to ones that are retiring. But as you said, it's particularly problematic in shortage occupations where currently we have a large number of older people, because if they retire soon and we don't have young people who come after, the shortage will grow and grow. And I think an important element here is the awareness raising, that this might be the job of the future. That's where you as a young person, when you now start education and you might be done in 3 years, in 5 years, you have a kind of a guarantee for a job, because there will be the gap. So awareness raising is important, working on the stereotypes as mentioned is important, but then also I think it is also partly about the perceptions, notably when we are talking about jobs which are related to more craft occupations. Nowadays, it is young people are sent to university. That's where you have your career, that's what you want to go to. But learning a craft occupation has not such a good reputation. But this is also where we see a big gap in the workforce to come after. So to promoting also more like apprenticeships or other type of on-the-job trainings, I think that also would be something important for the future to ensure that we have a more balanced labor market.
Yeah, and it's up to the employer to open up the opportunities with their companies, change jobs, make them more accessible, not related to gender or age. Irma, there is, of course, many ways to try and tackle the demand area in jobs and trying to find people. In the Netherlands, part-time is actually a big component.
It is. The UWV has developed a strategy, 34 solutions for the labor market. Recruiting in Europe or recruiting abroad is one of them. But also working after age of 65, 66 in the Netherlands. That's our pension age. But also one of the solutions is to work more hours. We have a high percentages of people who work part-time in the Netherlands. So if everybody works just a couple of hours more, then we solved a big problem on our labor market.
And it's not many hours. We're only talking about 2 or 3 hours per week more, I believe, right, on average. Yeah. We go over to our next on-site report. For that, we went to the Falkensteiner Family Hotel and Resort in Croatia. And there we spoke with an employer and their employees about their challenges that they've had with shortages in their sector. So let's go and find out.
Love Carpe Company is a Croatian company which provides services in tourism, and so the team who runs the company is in tourism for over 100 years altogether if we connect all these years.
Working in hospitality, especially in this line of business, tourist animation, it does start as a seasonal job.
So it's possible to work as an entertainer for 2 months, for 3 months, for a whole season, which in Croatia means 6 or 7 months. But we also post workers to other European Union countries. We also have some partners in Southeast Asia, where we also provide possibility for our employees to work during the whole year, so to connect Asian and European season.
We do have shortages in terms of the staff, and especially because most of our destinations are child-oriented. We do have shortage in terms of candidates who are inclined to working with kids, candidates who have experience in childcare or working with kids, either qualified or non-qualified animators who are specialized in working with children.
And we employ a lot of people that are working in kitas, in kindergarten. To me, that means the most, just so they have experience with babies, because we also work with babies from 6 months to the age of 12 years. So there needs to be a professional background and education in that field.
At this point, what we see, there is a certain shift that Middle Europe animators are coming less and less. A little bit, it is a slight difference, but we can see it. And we have more applicants coming from eastern parts of Europe. Western parts of Europe, like Spain, like Italy, like France, are also in decline, but this is understandable because the France, Italy and France are also the countries which have a huge tourism industry, and this type of jobs can be found there as well.
We are really very proud to be in cooperation with EURES, and very happy because cooperation has always been excellent from the job of all EURES advisors who we communicate all the time. So not only from Croatia, but the whole network, Slovakia, Poland, Netherlands, France, Belgium. So we really always had great support from them. We always put our ads, but also communicate in all other sectors and possibilities how to promote our job positions, and the communication by now was really excellent.
So I would say if you're one of those people that have seen an advert about tourism, animation, entertainment, and you're not sure, go for it. You won't regret it. It's been one of the best things about my last 7 summers that I've done is work with these people and meet new people. I feel like I have a home everywhere in Europe to go and visit.
So the tourism is industry that you need to love, but also it is the industry that if you give it an honest try, it might actually capture you.
So very interesting report on site there, and also thank you to Love Carpe Diem for their support on site. And what I do find interesting is that you see the match here as well between certain occupations: healthcare, childcare and entertainment. When I first got there, I didn't really saw that link before, but it's a very clear one. So you do see that there's sectors that overlap as well, but they're both a shortage sector. Makes it challenging. Well, over to our next poll question. Next poll question we also put on social media channels before leading up to this episode. And yeah, let's go and see it. So, next poll question. Which of the following occupations are identified as shortage occupations in the Netherlands? Good question for you, actually, Irma, but let's see what our viewers put in there. So was it A, freight handlers, B, nursing professionals, C, civil engineering laborers, or D, all of the above? Well, since the Netherlands has a very high percentage of shortage occupations, the correct answer is D, obviously, yes. There is a lot of shortages there. Irma, can you give us an example of a shortage and surplus occupation in the Netherlands? One of many?
3 of them are there.
Yeah.
And well, I think something you always need to, what I said earlier, you always need to look deeper into the numbers and contact your colleague, EURES advisor in another country, because in the Netherlands we have, for example, cooks. We have a surplus, but also a shortage in that.
Oh yeah.
Yes, because you have cooks who work in an institution. We have a surplus in that, and we have cooks who work in a restaurant, and we have a shortage of that. So then you might think they can overlap each other, eh? So one can work in another sector, but sometimes that's more difficult because in an institution you need to work during the day, in a restaurant it's during the evening, and when you have little children that's more difficult. So sometimes it's not so easy to change another sector. So that's an example of an occupation in both sides.
And that actually is a straight mismatch, what we discussed before as well, in the same occupation for that job. Irene, when we're looking at information, right? We had the labour report, of course, of the shortages and surpluses report of the ELA come out, but there's other ways of also finding information online.
Indeed, and I think that is one of the big advantages that EURES has. We have already heard now a couple of times about what we call the human network, so the local advisors where job seekers and employers can go to and get direct advice. But we also do have the EURES portal, and that also has a job matching function, but it also provides information. We have there a section about labour market information for all the 31 countries that EURES is covering, and even more granular so on the individual regions, so that we know, as Irma mentioned, the north of Spain is different than the south of Spain. You can find information on that on the portal. And we also have another section which is called the living and working condition, which gives them more practical, the hands-on information, when notably interesting for the job seekers if they are considering to go to another country, that already before they go, they can make themselves knowledgeable about the key characteristics of the countries, of like where to register, where to find schools for the children and the like. So it's I think a very important combination of these different services, that EURES is not only offering the job matching, but also this type of information. We also have another platform which is called the European Online Job Days, where really employers and workers can find each other. So it's like a recruitment platform, but also this can be used for information. And as mentioned, the combination of the digital strand of EURES and the human strand.
So do your research and preparation, know before you go.
Indeed.
You can get your online information. And also what Irma was explaining as well, the personalized information. Yes, we have cooks available, but they mismatch with the jobs that we have. The EURES advisor is in the network one of the key figures that you can ask as well for information.
Yes, the EURES advisor is very important. Their knowledge are very important. They work daily, and they are able to answer to the different question in a different situation for the job seeker and for the employer. And in the same time, if the EURES advisor didn't or doesn't know the answer, can ask to other institution in order to receive that the proper answer, and to send the answer for the person or for the employer in a very good and very fast they can receive. But as I told you, they are all over the country, all over the Europe. They are very important, and what is so important, they keep among them the daily contact, and in order to help people. And this is the most important part of the network.
So 1,000 or more than 1,000 EURES advisors within the member states that all connect with each other in support of job seekers, employers, and of course...
And during the year they are really friends. They become friends. During the year they work together for daily, sometimes daily.
It's interesting. Looking at the shortages and surpluses report of ELA, the European Labour Authority, that's a report now. We're going to develop further on different topics and subjects. But what does the future look like in 5 years, Irene?
Well, we undusted a little bit our crystal ball. We were looking into the future, how the European labour market might look like by 2030. We as ELA didn't do that on our own. We collected a group of experts from the EURES network, but also social partners and representatives from other public administrations, for example. And we developed with them 9 scenarios how the future might look like and what that might mean for labour labour shortages and surpluses, and deriving that from that what that might mean for EURES services. And while these 9 scenarios, they're quite different from each other, that's intentional because it's only potential futures. There are some common findings, and these common findings brought, for example, abroad that these structural shortages that we have seen now for, let's say, the last decade, very likely they will continue in the future. But there are also new elements coming, like driven by the digital and green transition, that is very likely to bring across new shortages. Also, what these experts agreed on is that very likely the north of Europe might be more affected by shortages, while the south of Europe might be more affected by surpluses in the future, which again for EURES might mean then to adjust these cooperations of how can we bring the employers and the workers together. Regarding also the type of companies, these scenarios brought about that particularly small and medium-sized enterprises might need more support in the future to recruit and to find the workers, because they will be struggling more with finding the candidates, as they do not have in most of the cases an established HR function who could do this outreach, who could do the recruitment. So I think it brought about some good guidance of not only for EURES services, but more generally what might happen in the labour market in the future.
So there's many ways that we can go and direct it. You just mentioned something that I found interesting as well, to how to future plan, because there's other ways as well. And Irma, when we look at, for instance, the possibilities for more apprenticeships or traineeships, that's something we need to act upon now.
Yeah, I think so, yes. To learn more from each other, but also to facilitate our young people in exploring new sectors, new skills, also in other countries. Yeah. I think when you look at the future, the problem on the labour market for the healthcare sector, it's only getting bigger. The problems on the labour market in the construction sector, it's only getting bigger. And when you look at things that what are going on in the labour market, maybe, for example, truck drivers, maybe we don't need them anymore in 20 years because we have self-driving cars. So think about the choices that you make also for your children, for the future and what we need in Europe.
So two ways. Yes. Two ways we can head in the direction. Know before you go for the candidates when they are exploring the European labour market, and for the employers, future-proof your labour market and offer chances for anyone, everywhere, anytime. And contact your local EURES advisor.
Yeah.
For questions.
Important.
And look at the EURES portal.
And look at the EURES portal. And we will display all the links on the screen. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us here in the studio and sharing your insights and information with us. It's much appreciated. And of course, the on-site reports that we've done today. Thank you for everybody helping us out on location there. For the viewers that are watching now, there is a very interesting European Online Job Day coming up on the 22nd of October. It's called Today's Dream is Tomorrow's Reality. You can sign up for it if you're a job seeker to get more interested information about certain countries, or as an employer to offer your possibilities for job seekers within Europe. Also, I would like you to join us again for our next episode that is focusing on the European Online Job Days, which is a very useful and interesting platform to connect job seekers and employers all over Europe. So definitely go and visit us again there. Thank you again, everyone, and hopefully see you again next time.